Okay, so while AJ's fixing this up, sort of backstory to this one. Greg and I ran, AJ didn't, sort of concerns about overdoing it from luck or like injury.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, I had a really good race when you subtract out some notable mistakes, but that's everybody says that. So I was pretty disappointed coming in after this one. And Greg, how was your race?
Well, yeah, so I'll start it off. So, and let's maintain the same format. One thing we're happy with, one thing, or two things two legs we're not happy with, things that we can improve on. So, I'll go for, there were quite a few legs I was happy with, but I'll go with number one. Um, and that's not going to be 100% accurate for me. Um, because the GPS starts like at the map pickup point, and that's not where Root Gadget starts it. So I was a little closer to the line than it's showing here. But the reason I wanted to talk about this one is because I was really happy with it. Uh, because almost the entire way I was able to make sense of the map. For me, this felt like once I got into the terrain, and especially after the middle of the day before, it just felt like another terrain around Scranton where I live, another terrain in Pennsylvania. Um, Things were clicking for me for the most part, even in a super vague area like this, things were making sense. And so I did run a little bit slower, but as you can see with some of the other routes, if you want to highlight them, I mean, there were some pretty big blowups on on this leg, and for good reason. It's a super vague area, so just navigating to a control like this is really tricky. Some people did it really well. It looks like, yeah, Danny spiked it quite well. Um, and who's red? Is that Joe? Yeah,
Yeah, Joe.
yeah. So yeah, they did it quite well. So, and that's absolutely possible, but I was quite happy with how I did it also because it's tricky. It's really tricky terrain, and learning to navigate and read feel the forest here is a really important thing. Um,
Can you
like I
break it
said, I was a
down?
bit closer to the line, but I was still able to pick out the features that I wanted as I got there. And then the two that I'm not happy with
Can you like
are
what were those features? Can you say?
okay, well,
Yeah, it's quite big.
so running along the flat, so I did, yeah, so that's accurate running up to there, and I was a bit further south, so like yeah, closer to the line, running on the flat. That group of cliffs. So I was on that was on actually on my left when I went by it, and then I saw that
Mhm.
marsh, um, and then kept going, saw the narrow marsh, and from there, I I wasn't trying to read any of the things in there. I just went down to that large reentrant, hit that, and then basically knew that stay on your line through the white forest, and you're going to see that hill in front of you. So yeah, so then everything made sense. It was, I mean, slow because it was the first leg and trying to get into the map and all of that stuff, but yeah, and probably still would have been better just to stay straight on the line, but I did feel a little more confident having those things to check off. Um, but yeah, let's keep going and jump to my two legs that I'm not happy with. So I'm actually the next one is so num one to two.
That's a
Um,
meaty leg.
yeah, so and this one I'm frustrated with because I did see the other one as an option. So I went around to the south down there, and it shows that I was 3.5 minutes behind the leading time here. And I'm frustrated with it because I saw that option over the mountain, and I thought, man, that does look pretty good, uh, all over top. And the entry looked pretty decent. Ultimately, I think if you calculate the climb, I didn't by going around on the south. I don't think I really saved that much. And something that in retrospect, is very clear. But I was thinking about this when I took the southern route. Is that there's a lot of cliffs down there on that southern route, and I, from experience, I think a lot of orienteers know that when you have a small trail like that going through cliffs, it's not actually all that much faster than just running through the forest. And that trail was pretty technical. It was pretty rocky, so it was not fast to get through. Certainly faster than the forest, certainly faster than having to read, but definitely not fast. And but yeah, so coming in through there, execution was fine. It was just choosing the route was something I wasn't happy with. And then the next one would be 6 to 7. So this one is actually I took the route around to the left there on the western side, the same as Gene Beveridge there. So it looks like yeah, he was still able to. Oh, but he was running with Andreas also. Yeah, but he
Yeah,
also
he's
yeah
he's
he
still
even
behind a bit.
yeah, but he lost time too. So I'm frustrated with this because I also on this one I saw the route around to the right and I thought yeah that looks pretty good, but the ski slopes were horrible yesterday. I want to avoid those. Uh, yeah, I saw more or less Danny and Joe's route and I thought that doesn't look that bad honestly. Um, but I saw the ski slopes yesterday. They were horrible to get across. I was traumatized, so I decided to try to avoid that at all costs. And this was also a very similar leg to several that Danny and I had seen. And this is what I mean is I feel like I almost prepared too much because I thought, okay, we already planned this, so I already know this is the best way around.
You said
But
in the planned route that you would go the way that Joe and I did. Like
was
that
that?
was you said when we were like reviewing this, there was a very similar leg to this, and on the
Well,
same
no, but
thing
I
that
saw I remember well, maybe I said that as an option, but it would also depend on, you know, what it looks like. And once I got there, I was like, all right, yeah, no, it's pretty close to this trail over here, to those roads. So I decided, all right, I'm going to come in from there. And it wasn't horrible. I mean, I think it looks like, I think the route that Christian took looks like he had a bit too much climb and technicality. Uh, yeah, still a decent time, but still, I
Wow,
think,
that's crazy.
yeah.
yeah, I think there is a trail. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
there's
is a
that
trail
little
through
one.
there, or at least for part of it. And then yeah, and that's so not horrible, but again, like yeah, you have to look at the things in the moment and still decide. Not you can do your preparation, you can do all that stuff, but you need to decide based on what's actually in front of you. So yeah, still lessons to learn. All right,
Mhm.
Daniel.
Uh, bring it back to number one. So this is one that I'm happy with. And I did adjust this so that this is like exactly my route to run through and everything. And I'll just talk you through sort of why I liked it and what I saw. Beforehand, I don't meditate. I mean, this isn't something that I do, but I took the time to sort of like remember the West Point long, which was like my best race result was the team trials, and just like what was my mindset then, and then anything that I could do to sort of replicate that here. Very different terrains, but I just wanted to get sort of back into that feel. And the biggest takeaway was that like I was very slow through the first 9 controls for the West Point long. Lost several minutes, but was able to like come back for the second half of the race. So I saw this leg. I saw there's no obvious trails. There's like straight is the way to go here. And you can easily blow up if you lose contact. So I said like just relax, count off the reentrance at the very start, and then there's two things that I'm looking for. After I get sort of past this index contour and it flattens out, wide reentrant, wide spur, um, keep my head up for the two lakes right there. Which I did find. I saw that the ground was getting wet in that direction. That's how I knew it was a bit further north. And then from then I saw that there's like basically no features up until the big hilltop. And I said, I can compass, I can sort of, look up and not try to think about anything between here and there and just like maintain that line. Because it's a big hill. I know that I can be within a couple degrees of the right bearing and still execute it. And I'm really happy that I was able to do that on the first leg, like especially compared to my first leg for the middle, to sort of take the time to pick out those two features, break the leg up into two different parts. Um, I was really happy with. For a league that I'm not happy with, there are many to choose from. Let's start with four. So there wasn't a ton of route choice for this. I mean, maybe there is, and we all just happen to sort of go along the same line, or you can discuss the differences between these routes. But looks like we all crossed the beaver dams at the same point and then sort of diverge from there. My plan was you see these big cliffs right where the line from 6 to 7, yeah. My plan was to run along that and then read the rest of the course. So while I'm doing this uphill and just like slogging up, figure out my plans for everything else. And I did that by the time that I got to the top. And then I saw this clearing with that rock. And I was like, okay, great. I'm still going along my line. This is great. Now, what's the plan for this one? I kind of haven't finished the plan for this leg. And it doesn't seem that hard. Like there's this like line of cliffs along the big hilltop. So I get to that. And I know it's on the second line of cliffs. Great. So I'm running right into it. And now I'm at like the finest detail of map reading. Like I know I'm approaching the circle. And if you can turn off routes for a second, I can't like I know that this is a reentrant going into it, but I don't know what's uphill and like between this knoll with the cliff, the one that it's on and the cliffs to the west of it, I couldn't decide which one was up and which one was down. So I thought it's not that first layer on the east, so I'm gonna stay down the middle, just whatever the middle is. I don't know if it's up or if it's down. And apparently ran right past it. And I knew that I was my head was on a swivel. I was looking for it. I mean like I and I can't tell you which side of the knoll I ran on. And
Well,
my GPS says it was on the west.
if I mean, yeah, I remember the vegetation, the visibility there was very low, like
But
very.
yeah, but I knew I was approaching the circle. Like I knew I was looking for this knoll. I knew those cliffs were around me and I wasn't going to be on the eastmost part, but I just didn't know what was uphill. Like with this index contour, am I going up there?
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, overran it as a result because I just couldn't visualize what was going on there. Saw that massive cliff and was like, okay, I know I ran past it, but now what? Like it's exact same problem going back into it. And kind of just did distance estimation, stopped, and then there it was. So yeah, I,
I think the only route that I saw that was different for this one was I think Isak came up from the east, like up the hill to the east. Is
yeah,
that?
zoom out, zoom out.
Where's Izak?
He's purple. He's right there.
Oh no. Okay, it wasn't Isak. It was somebody. I can't remember who it was, but somebody came up.
Okay.
Like yeah,
But for second and last leg I'll talk about it's number six.
number six.
Yeah,
16 or 6?
six. Can you display the routes for six?
Yes.
Okay.
Working on it.
So this one was tragic. I mean, I had a plan, I was sticking to it, I was reading things off. I just hit the water control, which was number 5, and I was feeling relatively fine despite, that kind of bad miss on number 4. And like I swear the exact same thing just happened where I'm running into it, everything's making sense. Like this big reentrant right before it that's kind of going off to the east. I'm like, okay, I know that's going to open up into an even bigger reentrant with a trail over to the east. Maybe I'll be able to see that. And I didn't see the trail, but I did see that big hill, big reentrant. And then as I was running into it, that cliff right before it, like I don't know, it just threw me. Like I didn't really expect it. I maybe there was more cliffs like in the terrain that I thought existed, but really weren't worthy of being mapped. Um, and then kind of just got rattled from there. And what happened is once I stopped at that first cliff, I was really worried can you zoom out just a little bit? Uh, Come to think of it, I don't know what I was worried about because like there is that reentrant right before it, and I think I was worried that I was in the reentrant with a trail on it and not seeing the trail. And like I really don't want to overrun this downhill. That would be terrible. So I just stopped there, then ran down to that cliff because I saw maybe it's at the bottom of this cliff. And then the only way I was able to relocate was by seeing the clearings off to the northwest. And then like, well, it has to be back here. I mean, there's no other way that I know I'm not above it. Um, and that's like a case of just giving up on myself or like sort of doing everything right except for the very end and maybe just not visualizing the inside of the circle. And like I'm really disappointed with this because that started to like kind of rattle my confidence and then led to more mistakes, I think.
Yeah, control circles are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greg,
I
here,
w-
did you
yeah, I was
stop
with
on these?
so I was with Ricardo here,
Uh,
and Ricardo was really struggling to like navigate in the terrain, and he and I spoke about this leg afterwards, and he like punched the control right in front of me. I was fine reading, and I was making plans and things like that, and he was like, "All right, we're going. Like I'm leaving," and I was like, "Okay, I guess we're going." And afterwards, when I spoke with him, he was like, "No, my plan was just like to run at it, just run in the direction and see it." And I was like, like diagonal downhill with the cliff
Yeah.
facing away. Like that's yeah. I mean, yeah, you can roll the dice and you might get lucky, but
I wouldn't call
so
YOLO a
yeah.
plan.
So we got to that rocky ground, which is pretty. A lot of it was pretty similar to cliffs. Very
yeah,
easy mistake for it. Uh, and then went down and was trying to make sense of everything again. In retrospect, I mean, what I wanted to do, and I should have even with Ricardo there, I should have done it. Was I wanted to go down, do what Christian, Eric,
yeah,
and Scott
I
did.
really like this actually.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's it's just having the confidence, rolling fast through it, and you're not going to make a mistake. And
Yeah, even though it's not straight, the extra distance here, you can get the
yeah,
confidence running
yeah.
into it.
Even with the
I
downhill, I
mean,
think
yeah,
that
it's
is
just and it's tough when you have other people around you, and they're going, and you're like, okay, yeah, we're going this way, but to really go somewhere else, but yeah, messed up there. But
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't run this, but I think I was honestly surprised to see that the around route here was not good, considering that the terrain was so harsh. But I guess it's just, on 1 to 15 map, every additional distance away from the line is just adds up a lot.
well,
Uh,
the thing that you have to look at also is that around route, you do end up climbing quite a bit on it still.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's hard to see.
So that
Uh,
yeah, right around on the kind of the southwestern end of that, and that like going past the like from the uncrossable marsh there up, you do. I mean, it's not a ton, but that's still what is that? Yeah, you go down and then you have to climb back up, and then you drop down again. Yeah,
Yeah, there's little bits and pieces, but I mean, like the thing is, what Joe seemed to do is he didn't have to take that much going this straight route
Yeah.
because he avoided the bulk of like this top part.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then again, he was able to take a similar route. I guess
Same.
Danny took basically the same route as yesterday. I kind of like
Exactly.
I kind of like that idea where because if you had already ran from here to here, it's like you
Yeah.
just you know
Do it
you don't
again.
even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, this looked like a fun course.
yeah. Yep,
Okay.
it's a good
Very
one. It
good
was
fun. Yeah.
You guys
proper
good to
proper long.
wrap it up then?
Yeah, yeah. I think
Okay.
that's good to wrap it up. Thanks everyone
So
for joining us.
yeah, I'll add wherever we post this, like if you have questions, maybe one of us will check in and can clarify something.
Yeah.
Or if you have suggestions as to how to make this better for either us or for a viewing experience, then let us know. First installment and hopefully
Yeah, I feel
several.
like this ended up as long as the individual control by
Well,
control
no, but
one.
we did two. We did two though. We
Yeah.
only
That
did the
is
middle.
true. That is true.
Yeah.
And we did go into more detail, which is good.
So yeah,
Yeah.
just general feedback I think is always helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
Yeah.
Well,
cool. Wrap it up.
adios. See you later.
Adios.